You end up applying for hundreds of internships, reaching out to hundreds of people on LinkedIn, and you'll end up getting like a 0.5% success rate for every person you reach out, everything you apply to. But all you need is the one. You just need the one. And once you have your foot in the door, you're good. Passion makes diamonds. You don't really get anywhere without putting in the hard work. So I think the key there is to make sure you're doing it because you want to do it. If you're doing it just because someone told you to do it, it's probably not going to be worth it for you. You'll be working these really long hours. You'll be working super, super late. And you won't have a reason for yourself for doing this. And it makes it really difficult. I think just having faith in the fact that it's all worth it in the end. Things will get better.
Hello, and welcome back to Pathways to Success with Ali, the podcast where we look into the real stories behind success, the pivots, the setbacks, and the lessons we won't find in textbooks. Today's episode is a particularly special one. I'm joined by someone whose journey I've had the privilege of witnessing from early stage, having taught him for A-levels, and who has since gone on to build an impressive career in the fast-paced world of investment banking. Rishi is a fantastic example of what focus, resilience, and strategic decision-making can achieve. He has navigated a challenging industry, developed exceptional analytical skills, and carved out a path that many young people aspire to, but often don't know how to access. So beyond his professional success, what truly sets Rishi apart in his commitment is giving back. He has consistently supported young people who are curious about careers in investment banking, generously offering his time and guidance. He has contributed to our careers fairs in the past and is always willing to go above and beyond to help students gain an insight into the industry. Rishi also shares valuable advice and real-world insights through his social media platforms, where he breaks down what a career in investment banking really looks like and how to get started. If you're interested in learning more, you can connect with him on TikTok and Instagram at rm_university. In today's episode, we'll be unpacking Rishi's journey, the key decisions, the risks he took, the lessons he learned, and most importantly, what you can take away as you navigate your own pathways to success. So Rishi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Welcome. I'm very pleased to be here. I'm quite flattered by the introduction. It's quite
it's an honor
the accolade of achievements.
It's an honor to have you because I know how much, how busy you are and, the kind of world you're in is a very fast moving world and, you've got so much going on. So I really appreciate you making the time to share your, career journey with us today.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, as you said, I always like to give back to some of the students I've lived my life as a student. And I know sometimes it can be a bit confusing. So it's always good to help a couple here and there to get a clearer path.
Amazing. So before we get started, I just wanted to kind of get you to introduce yourself. So for those who may not know you, who is Rishi Muddha beyond the CV?
Yeah, so it's always quite hard to reflect on your own character, I guess. It's always quite a key interview question as well that I'm sure many of your listeners will soon become aware with once they start applying to jobs. But I'll say something that isn't so scripted for an interview. I'm sure you might know, but I've always kind of been curious with everything, quite a lot of things. So like now I love reading a lot. I love reading about people's opinions. I like hearing people's opinions. So Substack is a big thing that I spend my time on. The FT as well. It's quite important to my job as well. But aside the nerdy stuff, I'm fairly active. I like going to the gym. Kickboxing is a fairly big part of my life now as well. Yeah, I do that. Just for now is once a week. I would like to do it more than once a week, like twice a week. So as you said, there's only so much time.
Yeah.
Tennis and badminton as well. So there's that. I think recently I've also started to make an effort to be a bit more spiritual, which is quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Really helps. But yeah, this is something students always want to know about their teachers as well. Like, who are you behind the whole professional scene? I remember in school, like sitting with people like Cameron and Atish.
Yeah.
In your class, we'd always be trying to figure out who you are as well.
No, you guys were very, I remember you used to sit right at the front and you'd have lots of questions and, you guys are great as a trio and, I remember we had some very interesting conversations, but yeah, you're right. Absolutely. When you're especially you're working with somebody or somebody who's kind of forward facing, you want to know more about them. So yeah, absolutely. It's good to be curious and we're good to ask questions 100%. Now, you mentioned about Atish, you mentioned about your friends really during your A-levels. How would your friends describe you if they were to describe you, let's say in 3 words?
My friends, I think with my friends was someone who I joke around a lot. I really take the mick out of them quite a bit. So I think some of them would definitely find me annoying, for sure. A lot of my friends would find me annoying. They would also say I'm hardworking, I think. They do know that when I need to put in the work for something, I will put in the work. Like, I'm not someone who'll always just work hard for the sake of working hard, but when there's something to do, I think they know I'll do that. Annoying, hardworking, and maybe sometimes a bit hope they'll say fun. Let's go with that. But
Yeah.
to be
Yeah. I
honest,
mean,
I'm probably lying.
no, I think what you said is kind of spot on, to be honest, from my perspective of knowing you. Like, you can be a kind of laid back person, but when you need to do your work, you'll get it done. You're that kind of person to kind of just kind of put your head down and get things done. Because I remember from like year 12 into your time of in your journey, like you were always very good, like academically, I feel like, but then you always took that little bit laid back approach at times. But then when it's time to get serious, you would just put your head down.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
know you guys have had your holidays and stuff like that, so I'm sure you can be fun as well. So yeah, I think it
Yeah,
summarizes
yeah.
it well. About the annoying part, I don't know because I felt like you were fine. So your friends are going to see you differently, I guess. So yeah, cool.
Yeah, every single person sees me differently, I guess.
Yeah, cool. So in terms of, I mean, I know you to an extent, but in terms of growing up, were you always academic, or were you driven, or were you more laid back? I know I kind of mentioned a few things, but like, how would you see yourself?
Yeah, I think you kind of summed it up quite well, to be honest. I wasn't really someone who would work too hard in school. I wouldn't revise a lot, etc. I was kind of new to revising when it came to uni, which, to be fair, in hindsight, was probably like a misgiving. I wish I did revise, not for the sake of like learning my subjects more, but just knowing how to revise. Like I went into uni,
Mm,
and going going to uni is a big step up from school, and not being very familiar with revision to some extent put me on a shorter footing. But yeah, as you said, I didn't really work too hard. For example, I didn't revise at all for my A level mocks. Even for my maths A level, the actual A level exam, I didn't even revise. But I guess the key to my success in school there came from my habit of learning. As I said earlier, I've always been someone who's been curious. That's also, I'm sure as you know quite well, that's also gone into like the academics and intellectual curiosity. I always read, I always watch YouTube videos and stuff. So as I'm constantly learning, just because I enjoy it, you kind of become good at it because it's something you're doing all the time. So that also fed through as an advantage to my academic life, where I was able to learn stuff in school pretty well and pretty effectively without having to revise quite a bit. But then, yeah, as you said, when things had to get serious and I knew that I needed to put in the work, like I think for my biology A level, that was probably the thing that I knew I needed to put in the work a lot because the amount of content in that
mm.
quite it's quite a big A level. So then I will put my head down and actually get to work.
Absolutely. I think when a lot of people that are listening right now, like not everyone can be like you. So like obviously revision and keeping up with your work in A
Absolutely.
levels is very important. So I think some of us are gifted in many ways, kind of lucky, you can say, to kind of get away with not doing the most or with the minimum, let's just say. So I know with you, like you did put your head down eventually and you did do really well in the end. So, it just goes to show like hard work does pay off in the end. So for
Absolutely.
those of you guys listening, like it's really important to have that focus early on, I think. Now, talking about A levels, actually, let's take us back to your A level days because I want to know what you did for A levels and why you chose those subjects specifically. Because I think it'll be good for our listeners to know why you chose those subjects and kind of what was the rationale behind really picking those subjects.
Yeah, for sure. So my A levels, I did maths, biology, chemistry. It's not very important or integral for economics, of course, which is what I did for university. But I hadn't put too much time and consideration into what I would do after I left school. So I'm sure that will provide a bit of relief. Like you don't have to have everything figured out at the age of 16, 17 in life. You can take your time to figure things out. As long as you're, still working hard and doing something, people will always be impressed by someone who just has a general sense of achievement. So if you don't even if you don't pick the right path, you can always find yourself later. But then, as I said, I did economics at uni. And I think the rationale behind that was, so a lot of my friends did economics at A levels. And a lot of the times when I was speaking to them, I would enjoy speaking to them about their work. I would enjoy speaking to them about economics, etc. And a lot of the times I would end up helping them on their economics homework, even though I didn't do economics. And so I thought, well, clearly it's a passion of mine. Clearly I'm fairly good at it. So why try and go down this path of medicine, which is what I wanted to do with maths again, just for the sake of, that's what everyone wanted to do at the time. That's what I was told I should be doing. Why go down that path when there's this other path, which is a natural fit for me. And that's when I started, to go into economics. But yeah, the maths biochem was a big part of my A levels. But I do think it's a good base. Maths, of course, if you go into any STEM degree, it's good to have. Biology, chemistry, great subjects, and they give you the transferable skills as well.
Absolutely. I think, one thing you mentioned about like you wanting to do medicine initially or have that kind of mindset at the beginning. And a lot of people that do those combination of subjects that you did, which is your biochem and maths, tend to follow into medicine or dentistry, that kind of
Absolutely.
route. Was before you picked your A levels, did you have like influence at home in any way, like in terms of your parents being involved in decision making for what subjects you did for A levels, or were you kind of basing it on how you did in your GCSE exams? And I know you had kind of in the shorthand kind of thing, medicine back of your mind, you could say. But was there any other influences that kind of maybe dictated the subjects that you took?
Well, both my parents are doctors, so
Mm.
naturally it would have made sense for me. My parents didn't pile huge pressure for me to become a doctor, but of course they would have preferred if I did it. So there was like a little bit of implicit pressure there, but nothing. And then of course you go to school where loads of other children want to go into medicine. I see that as the path. So there were quite a few influences, and sometimes as a child when you're still trying to figure out your way in life, it can become difficult to discern the noise of those influences from the things that actually suit you. So
Mm.
I would definitely recommend. Sometimes it's good to take a step back and try your best to rid yourself of, not rid yourself, but remove the noise of those influences
Mm.
and try to figure out exactly what you do enjoy.
Absolutely. I think it's nice that you said your parents work are happy to, for you to do something different, because a lot of the times, not always the case. And, it's really difficult for individuals that are going through that transition where they have to kind of do something maybe they're not so, not wanting to do basically. So in terms of like, I know you mentioned about you helping your friends that are doing economics during their A-level time, and then you kind of found yourself, doing it quite well, and it might be something that might be right fit for you. Was there a specific moment other than that where you realized, actually, you know what, maybe medicine isn't for me, maybe science isn't the right kind of pathway for me? Was there any other particular moment in your time that you realized that?
I wouldn't say it was a flash moment where no, but it was more the slow realization. I enjoyed and I preferred the more mathsy STEM subjects rather than something like medicine, where a lot of it is, you have to memorize the different organs, the different conditions, etc., etc. And I think I more enjoyed the kind of problem solving and aspect of like something similar to pure maths. So I think there was that realization as well, that slow realization over A levels that I wanted to do something that was more theoretical per se and, could really challenge your thinking a lot more.
Okay, because I think like the chemistry is one of the, I would say, most popular A levels at our school anyway. And a lot of people will be like, "Oh, why do I have to do chemistry to medicine?" Or why is chemistry so important for this particular degree? What would you say are some of the skills you've learned during your chemistry A level course that is transferable to what you're doing currently?
For sure. To be honest, I actually think chemistry is probably one of the most transferable A levels you can get, apart from maths, probably. There's the stuff you have to learn in chemistry, not really like the simple questions you do in the A level exams, but I remember like the more complex questions you would get in the A level exams, where you would have, was it like the mass spectrometry, and you'd have to figure out what exactly the molecule is or something, the stuff like that, where you have to memorize a certain set of rules,
Mm.
firstly. And then you have to apply that memory of the certain set of rules to a completely novel scenario. And I think that skill set is mirrored in so many situations in life, and especially in the workplace, where, like for example, in banking, you'll be given like for this deal, you'll be given, this is the deal, this is the company, this is what's going on, etc. Now, how can you apply this information into a kind of novel idea, into a new way of thinking? And so I think chemistry is really, really key there for that. And it was definitely one of the most important subjects.
Yeah, I think it's the analytical thinking side. There's so many aspects
Absolutely.
of chemistry that you have to think analytically, and that kind of takes you directly into, I would say, the world of finance, isn't it, in many ways?
Absolutely.
So, and many other fields, like you mentioned. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, okay, cool. So, in terms of obviously, you've done your A levels now, and you applied for university. So, like you said earlier on, at 60, you don't really need to have anything figured out. It's really hard, in fact, to know what you want to do in the future. So would you say, like, economics, was there any other kind of things in your focus at that time other than economics that you might want to be pursuing in the future? And also kind of, if you want to talk about during that time, deciding whether to go to university or maybe other potential pathways, did you have that kind of thought process going on at that time as well?
Yeah, for sure. So I think I'll start on the other kind of subjects first.
Mm.
Again, the key here is trying to get rid of that noise that's all around you with external
Mm.
influences, etc. I was thinking, obviously medicine was one of the options. I was also thinking, because I like the kind of STEM subjects, why not go into pure maths as well? And then also computer science. I'd done a bit of coding before, and it was good fun. But again, it's all noise a lot of the time. your gut instinct can really guide you in those ways. And it's, of course, it's difficult to listen to that. But the obvious signs were there for economics, where I was naturally good at it without having learnt it at school at all. I was able to do economics work. So I think listening to your gut instinct, trying your best to listen to it, is quite key for that. And in terms of the university pathway versus the other pathways, there was a bit of questioning with that. I know apprenticeships are really, really good now, especially since I've gone to uni and left. They've become even better. You can get some really good apprenticeships now, which in some cases are much, much better than going to uni. It's like, I know company as well. They're not probably the most topically good company, perhaps, but they're offering like 18-year-olds in the UK £60,000 pro rata salary straight out of school for kind of internship or like an apprenticeship. So there are some really like competitive apprenticeships out there now. But I think for me, the reason why I chose to go to university was, again, university is a place where you learn an academic subject. I think if you try to go to university and try to see university as an institution that will teach you how to be good in a career, you're maybe doing university wrong. It's just you're going to learn a degree in an academic subject. And the reason why I liked economics was because I enjoyed the academic subject. So my whole reasoning for going to university to economics was just because I purely wanted to learn economics. If you're trying to go into something more career focused, then I would definitely recommend an apprenticeship. But if you just love a subject, I want to learn about a subject, and of course, university is the natural route for you.
I think that's a good way to put it, actually, because the reason I asked you that question initially, because there are a lot of people at that stage in their life who are so focused on university only that they kind of almost forget that there are all these other pathways that are available. And for some people, it probably is the better route in some cases, especially now. You mentioned how since you moved on, and there are so many good degree apprenticeships out there, and you can get pretty much your degree through it and get paid for, and you come up with experience in the end. So there are some. I think I would just kind of people listening in. I would just say just look into all the different pathways available to you. Research into the the companies that are offering them, and speak to them directly about positions available. They are highly competitive, and they take a lot to get one. Because from what I remember last time I spoke to someone who got one, there's about 600 people going for the same role, and they only recruited 2 people from it. So you can see how competitive it is. So obviously it's not easy. But yeah, absolutely. I think you're right in terms of what you said about university being a more academic route. 100%. So kind of going back to that then, how important would you say the university life was for you developing you as an individual? You can talk about academic side as well as non-academic side here as well.
Yeah, of course. So I think I'll start with the academic side. University, of course, is quite a step up from school. It's not like where you have your teacher who really shows you what to do. Like you would be in our class looking over us, telling us how to answer questions. There's a mark scheme. There's a very set way of doing things. So when you go to university and you're learning the subject, there's no set way of doing things at all. The lecturer will give you a lecture. He'll give you some questions, and you can answer the questions however you feel fit. If you ask him a question on how he wants the question to be answered, he'll tell you to go away. So there's a lot less academic support, and you're really thrown into to the deep end on trying to figure things out yourself. And I think that's really good for building those research skills. So if you're trying to go into some kind of knowledge work where research is very heavy, or you're like analyzing something, then I think those skills you learn at university about structuring an argument in an essay, or doing deep problem solving in maths equations, then those skills are really, really important. And I think that's a key part of the academic university experience, learning how to research things for yourself and learning how to analyze things for yourself with your own unique angle. And in terms of the non-academic life, because everyone lives out in first year, not everyone, but because quite a lot of people live out in first year, it is quite an easy way to experience living by yourself and to ease into that. I'm not too sure what the setup is with degree apprenticeships in that regard, but at least for university, it is a nice, easy way where everyone else is also learning for the first time to kind of learn how to live for yourself, be an independent adult. So there is that. So I would say university still did teach you a lot of key things, but I know quite a lot of people these days just go to university as a way to postpone stuff to start working. I feel like that's the wrong attitude. If you really grasp the opportunity, it can be quite good.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agreed. I think it develops you as an individual. You don't even realize some of the skill sets you may have, and you get to, meet people as well. And at the same time, like you said, you kind of learn to learn skills that you wouldn't otherwise normally do, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
Were you involved in any sort of societies or like extracurriculars during your time?
So I wasn't that much, to be honest, which is precisely why I wanted to start up this mentoring thing for helping children try to get to investment banking. I was so overwhelmed with everything that was going on when I started uni. For example, when I joined my course, every single other person on the course had A stars in further maths and economics at A levels. I didn't have either. So I was so overwhelmed with so many new things, the academic side, and then applying to all these spring weeks and internships that I didn't know about. Um, that I kind of got lost a lot, and I didn't really take part in the societies at uni that much. And that's one thing I really wish I did. In second and third year, I did start to a lot more, and it's really good fun. You can really build a community. You can make some good friends. That's the non-academic side where you can make some good friends. You can hang out with them, have a good time. But also because you're more surrounded by your peers, you also learn what other people are doing, how they revise, what kind of like internships are they applying to, how are they applying to them. So it really helps on your academic and career side as well. But yeah, for myself, in joined UCL Entrepreneur Society, of course, the UCL Economics and Finance Society, the UCL Indian Society, and the UCL Hindu Society. Well, those were mostly in second year and third year, and I didn't really take on any roles. But I would definitely recommend that you try and take on a role as like a first year representative in first year.
I think it's like you said, there are so many different societies out, when you're there, and it's good to get involved with the ones that makes you feel comfortable and welcome. And at the same time, I feel like you find yourself in some weird way, like if that makes, like I kind of say, like you some people find maybe the spiritual side to them, some people find a different side to them that never even thought about in the past. So yeah, I think it's good that there are these societies that are available. And if you are, going into university this year, maybe when you get there are these, go to the student societies and find out what's there on offer and sign up to the one that interests you. And yeah, delve into it, because like Rishi said, you can make some great friends through that way as well.
Yeah.
Amazing. So thanks for sharing that, actually, Rishi, because I think that's a good way to kind of summarize the kind of both academic and the non-academic side of university, and how it makes you an individual, develops you as an individual as well. All right. So moving on to let's say how, going into investment banking itself. So obviously it's a very competitive field. What do you think helped you break into the world of investment banking?
Sure. I think, to be honest, the main thing was just relentless hard work. To be honest, it's not easy. It's rough. There's no way to sugarcoat it. There's no, oh, you can do this and you can take this hack and do this shortcut. None of that. It's just relentless hard work. I end up applying for hundreds of internships, reaching out to hundreds of people on LinkedIn, and you'll end up getting like a 0.5% success rate for every person you reach out, everything you apply to. But all you need is the one. You just need the one. And once you have your foot in the door, you're good. So it's really a numbers game. You just have to stay up every day, like really late, spamming out messages on LinkedIn, going to loads of different networking events, applying to loads of different places. I think that's the main key for getting in. Just the hard work.
It's so true, because a lot of people, I think when you're young as well, it's probably more difficult to understand that. But the process of finding a job in the end, it's not straightforward. It can be a very hard process, and you'll be shut down so many times. Like you said, your success was 0.5%.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the reality of it. And, a lot of people don't realize that until they go through that journey themselves. I think, how did you stand out when, applying for internships in such a competitive field?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it was, to be honest, I think it was fairly difficult for me to stand out. I didn't have too much experience going into it beforehand. I didn't know too many people in the field. So it was difficult for me to stand out. But the key, I think, is really to be honest with yourself and play to your strengths. So I was quite honest with everything in terms of, I said to loads of people, like, I'm not really too sure about how the whole industry works. I'm quite young. I'm quite new to this. I'm quite interested in it. And I was just being honest, and I was putting myself out there. And eventually there were a few people who ended up relating to that same experience, who worked in banking. And it was then when I got in touch with those people. There was this one person called Rohan who used to go to Upton Court Grammar, a few years older than me. Now he works in private equity in the States. But he was someone who really helped me during university. And again, he could really empathize with the whole, we came from a similar place. We had similar experiences. We both went into university and we were both quite shocked and quite confused about everything. And then another story with one of my colleagues when I first started in investment banking. He was one of my seniors in the team. And he also had a fairly similar experience, so he could sympathize with me. And he really helped me, really mentored me, really made sure that I was okay on the right track. So for me, it was just about being brutally honest and just showing the fact that I'm curious to learn and I'm curious for learning and I'm eager to learn.
Mm.
And there were people who really sympathized with that and helped out.
Yeah, no, I think one of the things you just mentioned about having a person that can, that mentored you, and guided you,
Super
and you had
useful.
similar a kind of relatability factor to them, helps a huge way. And I think mentorship is so important.
For
And it
sure.
kind of, like thing you mentioned about, I mean, let's talk about that actually. Like you've got your Instagram and, your TikTok that you kind of put on, and that's a mentoring program ultimately to support young people. So just kind of how people can reach out to you on that, because, just in case like somebody listening in right now and they might want that, they might want that mentorship. So what can they do to reach out to you, and what kind of things could they ask you to help, with?
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks for that. So as you said, I've got an Instagram page and a TikTok page that that you guys listening or
Mm,
watching can reach out to. As you mentioned at the start of the podcast, ROM_university.
mhm,
And essentially, I'm just there to mentor anyone who's trying to get into investment banking. Whether you're still in school, you're doing your A levels, you're doing your GCSEs, then I can try and help you to get into the best universities, trying to get you a few weeks of work experience into some kind of finance related work. If you're at university, if you're in first year, try to get you those spring weeks or those summer internships. If you're a bit later on, then maybe I can try and help you with landing a better graduate offer, trying to network within your existing summer internships to leverage that for the best teams. Essentially, is just a platform for people to reach out to me who feel a little bit lost, who feel a little bit
mhm.
confused, who feel a little bit overwhelmed. I understand that the whole industry can be quite looming and large and daunting, and I don't want you to feel like you're lost, that no one's there for you, no one cares for you. There's always people who will be there to help you. And if you need help, if anyone does need help feeling like they're lost in the world of investment bank, more than happy to provide help.
Amazing. I'll share all of the details for your socials and where people can connect with you, including LinkedIn as well. Many people, not everyone's on LinkedIn, so if you do want to support and also, get advice from Rishi, you can find out more details. I'll put the link to the details in the description of the video. But again, Rishi, you've always been actually very supportive of initiatives where coming into school. We've been in contact many times where you were happy to come in and speak to the students about investment banking, and it just goes to show like you're willing to help and support, which I really like about you, because not enough people are doing this. It's really hard for young people when they want help in that particular field they're interested in. The doors are closed very quickly. So I'm glad that you've started this off, and I'm honest to wish you all the best with it, because if you can, like I was saying to you earlier on, helping just one individual along the way could make the biggest difference in their life.
Exactly.
Yeah. And,
Yeah,
having that
exactly.
mentorship yourself, you've had from people like Rohan and so on, and in your journey to date, you probably see it for yourself how important that is. So, this is just great that you've started this off. Honestly, I'm just so happy that you did this. And honestly, I'll share it everywhere, because I think that will be really important for young people to know they have support available to them through, people in the industry that are currently doing it themselves.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yours also like a huge support for them. I don't think there's many teachers out there in their schools who go above and beyond outside their work to really help students.
No, I'm sure everyone
Likewise.
tries their way, but absolutely, we do our bit to support young people, because it's a hard journey through school. It's hard to know exactly what you
Exactly.
want to do. You're still really young. You don't really know everything, and hard to know exactly what you want to go into. So if we can all help in some way, that's like our bit we can do, because we've all been through it, and he knows how we
So
can
yeah,
notice how hard it is.
exactly. We all know it's quite confusing and everything.
Absolutely. No, I want to go back a bit. So, you mentioned about how difficult it was to stand out, and, there were people that were doing like further maths and this and so on and so forth. And it kind of is a really, really competitive process. Can you walk us through your first successful application or the offer you got?
Sure. So I'll talk about my first successful investment banking offer, which is the investment bank I ended up working at. It was Santander.
Okay.
So as I said, I was quite behind when I started. And it took me a while to catch up. So I was quite behind when I
When you
started
say you were
university.
behind, just to cut you off, when you say you were a bit behind, what do you mean by that?
So I was quite behind when I started at university. As I mentioned earlier, before I didn't do economics or further
Mm,
maths at A level.
okay.
A lot of the other students who were there already knew about investment banking. They were already quite interested in it. And also most of them were from private schools. And in
Mm,
private schools, their teachers have a lot more resources. They can bring in a lot of their alumni as well, who are ex-bankers. So they knew a lot more about the industry. They knew what they had to do. Whereas me, I didn't do economics or further maths at A level. I didn't go to a private school where I had all those resources to tell me that, I needed to apply to spring weeks in first year. I need to then apply to a summer internship in the second year. I needed to reach out to people on LinkedIn, and this is how you reach out to them. I didn't have any of that knowledge. I didn't have anyone telling me you need to join societies, be a first year rep, you need to try and get some work experience at a finance firm or anything. And so I fell behind because everyone else had the academic knowledge of economics and further maths, and then also had the work experience and the knowledge of how to get an offer into investment banking prior to starting uni. And so it took me a while to catch up. And so I didn't do my summer internship in my second year of uni. I did my summer internship in my last year of uni at Santander. And in my third year of uni, when I really started to understand how it worked, and I was really getting quite a few offers. And I remember actually I had when I was doing my last interview for Santander, I had 2 interviews scheduled for the exact same day in the exact same time. One was at Santander, and another was at this other investment fund called the British Growth Fund. And I had this huge dilemma of trying to weigh up which one do I go to. I tried to email both of them asking, can I change the dates? And they both said, we can try to change the dates for you, but we can't guarantee that we'll be able to find another date for you. So it was a real toss-up. Like, I really had to just choose one.
Mm.
And it was quite stressful. Eventually, I did choose investment banking at Santander over this investment analyst role at the British Growth Fund, more because it was the more traditional graduate role where you get more, where you'll end up learning a wider array of skills. But there was that key dilemma, which was quite tough for me. But in terms of getting the offer and getting the interview itself, as I said before, it's really a numbers game. You end up spamming loads of different applications, like hundreds every year. And then eventually a couple would stick out.
So when you did your internship with Santander, you said, right?
Yes.
So at that point, like, would you say that was a stepping stone into your career journey so far? And how much of an impact did that have to where you are now?
That was by far the most important thing for getting me to where I am now.
I think one thing you mentioned earlier on is getting your foot in the door, and
Yes.
Once you're there, it kind of helps you in a massive way. And I think that's so true, because when you're looking in the job market and you're trying to find something for yourself, it's always going to be really tough. But you just need to get your foot in. And it brings up an example of a friend of mine who's a pilot, and he initially struggled to get a job in the field. And I remember he was working just normal jobs here and there, and at one point he was working in Pizza Hut doing deliveries because he was just putting in applications up after applications, and so nothing was happening for him. And we had this chat at one point, like, you should maybe just do something that gets your feet in the door. And he started working for it was a private kind of firm, and they were doing like private jets and stuff, and he was just a receptionist, pretty much. Like, he was doing admin stuff. That's how he started it. And then the CEO literally looked at his CV, said, what are you doing here? And he said, I'm just applying for everywhere, but I just thought I'll just do something in the meantime. And then that's how he got his first job. The CEO came to him directly and said, what you do?
CEO is a big one.
Which is huge. And that comes to mind all the time. And now he's doing great, and he's working for a big company, and he's doing well for himself. But it just goes to show, like, just little things, how much of an impact it can have.
Yeah, genuinely, those small things make the biggest difference. And getting your foot in the door is so key. Because once you get your foot in the door, it allows you to be around the people who can get you to the places you want to be.
Absolutely. So true.
Just being around those people, they'll be able to see you. You can build a relationship with them, and that's the biggest thing.
I think what comes to mind when you say that is like networking, how important it is. Yeah. And one of the things you mentioned earlier on is how you going to a school where, not private school, let's say, and the difference is the private school, they have so many connections with the industry, they have so many links and support they can give their students and guidance. I think that probably does stand out a lot for those students. And that being said, it's like it makes it difficult for a normal person going to a comprehensive school or just to stand in a normal school, because they don't have those contacts and links. And in the day and age we're in, I think it's so important, like, who in many cases.
Yeah, for sure.
Which can really help in significantly in some cases. And I think that's why it's really important that industry people that that are industry, they should go into schools and give their advice and support to young people.
Yeah.
And that's something that I try to do where I am currently, in terms of giving students an insight into the world of particular, different career paths ultimately, so that they can see for themselves what to expect and then ask those relevant questions. Because like you said earlier on, you're still so young, you don't know. But when you hear it from somebody who's doing it, and maybe somebody who's more relatable to you because they went to your school, or they went, not that long ago, they left your school, it makes it a lot more relatable as well. So that's why I urge people that, been to Herschel or any other schools, go back to your schools and give your insight into what you're doing, because honestly, you can shape the next generations
Exactly.
in so many, in such a good way. So, give back where you can, I think. I know it's hard, it's difficult, but those are the way you get the fulfillment, I think, in many ways, in many
Exactly.
cases.
But I will say, I don't think it's a be all and end all if you haven't gone to private school like that.
No, of
I think
course
if
not.
you're someone who's come from a comprehensive school,
Mm.
a grammar school, comprehensive school, or whatever, and you haven't had that kind of network and opportunities beforehand, and you manage to make yourself despite not having that, that journey of building it for
100%.
yourself builds
Yes.
so many skills that
Yeah.
once you do
So
end up
true.
in the same place as those children who did go to the private school, you are a so much more competent and proficient
100%.
person that you can end up leapfrogging them by far. And so in some ways, it can be a blessing if you use the opportunity properly. But
Yeah.
that's for sure the key bit,
100%.
using the opportunity properly.
And I couldn't agree more. And I think if you look at the people that are successful, it's the hunger and drive they had,
Absolutely.
as opposed to having those contacts and links in the industry who have gone on to do even more than those people that may have had contacts and support along the way.
Exactly.
So spot
Exactly.
on. Okay, so in terms of, I want to kind of go into your day-to-day life in investment banking. So what does a typical day in your role actually look like?
Sure. So I'll talk about the average day when I started investment banking. I think that's a bit more relevant. So I started in this team called Leverage Finance at Santander. Essentially, what we do is there will be companies. Most of them will be the companies that private equity companies have bought. So the private equity funds will buy these companies, and they'll use a lot of debt to buy these companies. And because the debt, the sums of debt are so huge, they're in the billions of euros, billions of pounds, billions of dollars. You can't just get a bank to give the debt. You need to have investors. You'll have loads of investors, maybe like 200 investors, who will each give like 10 million euros or 50 million euros. And then the total sum of all of that, all those investors will add up to like 2 billion, 3 billion euros worth of debt that is given to these companies, so that the private equity funds can buy them. And because these companies have so much debt and because they're fairly small, the chances of the investors getting paid back is a little bit lower. And also because of that, you can then charge a higher interest rate. So our job on the leverage finance team was to make sure, was to find the group of investors who are willing to buy the debt. So we would work with the company and with the private equity fund to find all those investors. And as an analyst, my job was to help the associates and the VPs, the vice presidents who run the team, so the more senior people, create the pitch decks that we would send out to investors to try and make them invest as much money as possible. So the more common tasks I would end up doing would be something called comps tables, where we would have to find similar companies, and we would make a slide showing that these companies are like this, and so our company is well positioned because we're a lot better than these other companies. And so it's fairly research heavy in terms of you have to spend a lot of time researching these companies, finding out their financials, etc. And then it's also a lot of the work is making slides look nice and look pretty. So a lot of formatting, etc. And then there's also a bit of financial modeling, which I can delve into a bit more, but it can get a bit complex. So I think those are the three main areas. You research, you do a lot of formatting of slides, and you do some financial modeling. And those are the three main things you work on as an analyst. It's very labor intensive. You end up working a lot of hours.
Yeah. I was gonna say that was gonna be like kind of my next thing, really, finding out like what hours is like on a day-to-day basis. Like obviously a lot of people think office job is 9 to 5, but might not be the case always. So what does a day look like for you on like a time scale?
Sure. So it does depend a lot on whether the market's very active or the market's quite dead. So in times when, when the economy is doing really well, financial markets are doing really well, it'll be really busy because everyone wants to make something happen. It'll be really, really busy. It could be like, I would have to get in the office at 8:45 in the morning most days. And on days like on those kinds of weeks, I'll be leaving the office 2 a.m., 3 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah, and those would be quite rough.
But
Most
the
of the
office is
time,
open that late?
the office is open 24/7.
Crazy.
The office is open. There will always be someone, even on the weekends at midnight. There will always be someone in the office. Yeah, there were quite a few times on the weekends where I would pop into the office as well. Like you could work from home on the weekends, but if you really want to get your head down, it's a lot better to be in the office. And so yeah, when the market is busy, finishing the office at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And then on the weekends, you might work another like 6 hours each day on the weekend. When the market's not too busy, then you get in 8:45. You'll finish around 7, 8 p.m., which does sound late for sure. But compared to 2 a.m., 3 a.m., you end up, you come home and you're like, what do I do with this time now? So it can get busy. And I think, as I said, it comes in cycles. Normally the market might be busy for like a month, 2 months at most, and then it'll be quiet for another 3 months, and then it'll be busy for another 2 months. I'll be quiet for 3 months.
Okay, that's that's interesting to hear, because that's crazy hours. Like you mentioned some people, and it kind of it reminds me of. Have you ever watched a program called Suits?
Yes, yeah.
And like the kind of corporate world, and how kind of the offices are open until late. Some of them sleep over and all that kind of thing.
Pretty much like that.
That kind of comes to mind ultimately. But no, that's crazy. In terms of like working from home option, do you guys have that? Like in terms of is it fixed? You have to go into the office, or like how does that work?
So when I started, we had to be in the office 4 days a week. We could work from home on a Friday, but again, as you mentioned before, your network is your net worth. And if you're in the office, you might have the ability to go for a coffee chat, or you might randomly bump into someone. I remember once on my summer internship, I would come in Monday to Friday every day, even though most people would work from home on a Friday. There was one Friday where I was the only person in my team to be in the office that day. And this really senior guy from a different team needed some help from someone in our team. So he came over expecting to find someone, but no one was there, and it was just me. So he asked me, where's everyone? I told him where they are, and then I told him that they all work from home. He said he needed some help with some work, and I was like, okay, I'll speak to my manager, and we'll get that sorted out. But that small interaction then led to me asking him for a coffee chat, and then me networking with him, and then me, he then knows me. He was able to help me in future bits of work when I needed help from his team. I could message him, who's a fairly senior guy, directly and ask for help, and he can get stuff done quite well. So, especially if you're going to something like investment banking, I would say if you're not willing to go into the office 5 days a week, it's not going to go too well. You really have to be, especially as a junior. 5 days a week is very important.
Yeah, I think you got to remember, this is your first stage in your career. You have to try to impress the people that are going to be relevant in your progression. And so you can't just expect them to, you can't stand out then straight away, because they're going to see you as, oh, look, this person even bothered to come into the office. Or, you could look at it as, they're not really as interested maybe as somebody who is coming in. And like you mentioned about your experience there, just goes to show how much of an influence it can have when you liaise with people that are kind of, like some senior members of staff within the organization can make a huge difference to your progression. Cool. So I know I still kind of think about the hours you're doing. So how do you handle with the pressure, the long hours, and like the high expectation within your role? How do you manage all that?
It's difficult. I won't lie, it is difficult. The rest of the stuff in the work, like the pressure, the tight deadlines, your managers can sometimes be a bit aggressive. When the market isn't busy and you get like 8 hours sleep a night, if you're someone who's fairly resilient, you don't take things personally, it's not too hard. It's just a case of, your managers are stressed. So they don't hate you personally. They're just stressed and they're taking it out on you. So that helps. And then also the deadlines are tight, but that's because you're doing these kind of, very important big pieces of work. So it helps to really, I think, remove your ego from just yourself and try to look at the wider picture and what's actually going on, how the other people are feeling, what's the wider bit of work you're working on. And that really helps you to gain perspective on what's going on. And then it can offset the kind of pressure, the deadlines, the aggressiveness. But I will say that when the market is quite active and when you don't get those 6 to 8 hours sleep a night, when you end up on like 3 hours sleep, 4 hours sleep, it can get quite tough at those times. It can get really, really tough. It's just about having faith that, the market won't be like this forever. Eventually you'll get some respite, things will calm down. And also the idea that you're learning a lot. Sure, it's not great, you're working lots of hours, but because you're working so much, you're invariably learning a lot.
Mm, mm. You know what comes to mind right now for me is, how in school you focus on being punctual. There's an importance on meeting deadline. There's an importance on, finishing your work to a high standard. How do those things from school days, link to your professional world? The reason I ask this is because there are a lot of people currently going through school, let's just say, mainly sixth formers. I think they get to a point in their life that they don't almost see the importance of punctuality. You mentioned a few times about being in the office at 8:45. You mentioned about, having meeting tight deadlines at times when there's pressure from above and so on. What advice would you give to those young people who they don't value those important things in life, like those skills that are just so important in the real professional
So
world?
important. No, for sure. I mean, as you said, I was someone who's fairly laid back. And I think that did come to really not be the best habits and attitude that I had. I wish I was someone who did take a bit more care in school. Because in school, your teachers are nice to you. Everyone wants you to do well. Everyone wants to help you. Everyone's there for you. So even if you're not taking things super seriously, everyone's there for you. So they'll be able to fill in the slack. Once you get to a high paced work environment, no one's there for you. You're there for them. And if you're not willing to, if you're late to a call by 5 minutes, the client could leave the call, you could miss out on a huge business opportunity. If you made a few typos, if you made the formatting looks off, then your work looks unprofessional, and that could be the difference between you winning business and you losing business. So I think the things you say of being punctual in school, super key for just seeming professional, seeming like you're competent in the world of work. And then making sure that when you do homework, when you do your work at school, you're not just, getting it done for the sake of getting it done. You're putting in the effort to make sure that it's the best piece of work you can produce. And while a lot of students may not think, oh, this isn't important, as long as I get my grades, then I'm fine. But it's these habits. It's the habit of being punctual. It's the habit of every piece of work you produce being the best piece of work that will translate into success when you do start a fast-paced career.
Yeah, and I thank you for sharing that, because that's spot on, like what you said. And I think of people listening, that what Rishi said is so important, because that's one of the biggest issues we're facing with punctuality and attendance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it becomes a huge part of, your normal life when you get to that position. Now, I know we talked about a lot of stuff, your current position, what you've been doing in the day-to-day looks like. Has there been any moments where you question your path or your current journey?
Definitely. I think like when you're coming back home at 3:00 in the morning and you need to wake up at like 7:30 in the morning, then you really do question it for sure. But in those moments you do. But I think looking back on it, all definitely worth it. It's tough. But, pressure makes diamonds. You don't really get anywhere without putting in the hard work. So I think the key there is to, make sure you're doing it because you want to do it. If you're doing it just because someone told you to do it, it's probably not going to be worth it for you. You'll be working these really long hours. You'll be working super, super late. And you won't have a reason for yourself for doing this. And it makes it really difficult. And B, I think just having faith in the fact that it's all worth it in the end. Things will get better. You're not stuck like this forever. Eventually you'll be able to make things, as long as you don't start, slacking and not really doing anything. As long as you put in the hard work, eventually you'll be able to make your situation in life how you want it to be. So yeah, just making sure the reason is because you have a valid reason for doing it and having some faith.
Yeah, perfect. So looking back then, what would you say one mistake that taught you a lot in your journey? If there were any.
There's more than one, which is why I'm thinking there's plenty of mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, but again, the mistakes are the things you learn from. So
absolutely,
it's always good to make some mistakes here and there. I think the biggest mistake I made was not engaging in those societies at university. To be honest, I think if I engaged with those societies at university earlier, it would have set me up for a lot easier path than what I had taken.
Okay. What's something you used to believe about success that you've changed your mind on?
Okay. That's a good question. I think one thing that changed was, I remember in school, I used to have the view that, like, I used to think if you were someone who could get the best grades and put in the least effort, then that means you're super smart. So you're going to do really well in the world, right? Which I guess the logic flows. That kind of makes sense. If you can get really good grades without putting in effort, sure, you must be really, really smart. But unfortunately, the world does not run just on how smart you are. You can be super, super smart, but if you're not able to turn that smartness into something tangible, it means absolutely nothing. So I think the biggest thing I learned about success was how important hard work and effort is for success. That saying of like that success is 99% hard work and 1% like luck or 1% skill is absolutely true. You can be the smartest person on the planet, but if you're not willing to put that smartness to work, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely. And I think one of the things you mentioned earlier on about, we talked about how in school, the importance of meeting deadlines and things like that becomes really important in the real world. And you mentioned about habits is what becomes more important. So what would you say some of the habits or mindsets that have been key to your success?
So some of that, I'll start with the mindset because I think that's the habits will follow if you have the right mindset. I think the mindset to ensure that you have success in the industry that I work in is you need to be resilient. You need to have the mindset of resilience that no matter what knocks you down, you're always going to come back up. It doesn't really affect you. You're going to get back up, you're going to brush it off and you're going to carry on. That's key because every single day you will encounter something that knocks you down. Like, someone will shout at you for something. A deadline may change. Some piece of work might get deleted. Someone didn't do their work that they were supposed to on time. And now you have to make up for it. And if you get knocked down by these things, you're not going to be able to handle it in the long term at all. So resilience is one. And that feeds into your hard work. That feeds into the habit of constantly working hard.
Mm.
And I think another good habit to have is checking your work, attention to detail, and trying to make things perfect. I know myself, when I was in school, that laid back attitude kind of made me someone who didn't really check too much for the small details. As long as the big picture makes sense, it doesn't really matter. But I think when it comes to the world of work, those small details make a huge difference. Those small details are the things between I trust this person and I don't know how good this person is. So I think the habit of, attention to detail and not rushing through things, taking your time is another key habit. And I think those are the three key things for success.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. In terms of, and we've said a lot of things, and I feel like it might be a lot for somebody to take in. So if you were to summarize it, what would you say separates people who are successful from those who, might not be as successful, let's say, from what you've seen through your career so far?
Consistent, long-term hard work. Pretty much it. As long as you're consistent and you Warren Buffett is probably the best example of this. He's like 90 something years old now.
Yeah.
Many people regard him as the world's best investor. And he didn't make one big bet and make a huge bit of money from one big bet. He showed up every day, consistently put in the hard work, and over decades, he had something to show for.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a really good way to summarize it and a good example as well. People can relate to, definitely. Okay, so let's move on to I think we've said you've shared honestly, like you've been really honest about some of the, failures or even risks and not things going your way. You've used that in a positive way. I really like that. And I think a lot of the young people who are listening, I wanted to kind of get some advice for them from yourself. So what would you say to someone who feels lost or unsure about their future right now?
For sure. I think the main one is to just realize that you're still very young. And even if you feel lost right now, you're not going to feel lost forever. And even if you haven't got everything figured out, you're still young. You don't have to get everything figured out right now. You have some faith that things will work out. So as long as you do things properly, you work hard, you don't cheat your system or anything like that, things will eventually work out. I think that's the biggest piece of advice. Just have faith in things that would work out and reach out to people in things that you want to do. If you feel like you want to do medicine, if you feel like you want to invest in banking, if you feel like you want to do whatever, reach out to those people and just find out. You don't have to reach out to them in a sort of transactional way of, I want to reach out to him so I can build my network. Reach out to them to have a genuine conversation and find out for yourself.
Absolutely.
And that helps you gain clarity. And then also, if the conversation goes well, then of course you built upon your network. Yeah.
Brilliant. I think I always try to make it whenever we speak to students is have goals in life in terms of depending on where you are, obviously will be different. What would be 3 things that students should be starting to think about today if they haven't already? Would you say important?
I think 3 things that they should think about today is what you do in university in your early career is unlikely to be the thing you're going to be doing for your long-term career as well. Don't think that everything you do now is set in stone and won't change. Be open to the idea that things will change and your life may change. I think that's one. Be open to change. Consistent hard work, probably the most important actually. Hard work. Get in the habit of, consistently putting in hard work. It doesn't have to mean working 2 a.m., 3 a.m. every day. That's not consistent hard work. That's consistently burning yourself out.
Yeah.
Consistent hard work means just every week, a few hours extra. Always try to find a few hours extra every week. And that's it. And then B, I think, always presenting the best version of yourself to whatever, whether that be in an interview, dress the best, speak the best, prepare yourself the best, whether that be with whether your homework at school, make it the best piece of homework you made, make it look nice, make your handwriting neat, whether that be with your university assignments, cite all your sources. And that habit of putting the best version of yourself forward will reap so many rewards into the future.
Spot on. One thing I was going to just add to that as well. I don't know if you remember doing work experience during your time at school. A lot of young people now, they find their own placements and,
that's good.
And they go and,
that's really
seek.
Good. Oh, wow.
Which I think is a way for them to learn about the real world. That's how I see it. Whereas previously they're kind of spoon-fed and they were given opportunities. And I think this is a good way for them to learn about the world of work and how competitive it really is. And some of the feedback you get from, their employers, they'll always praise on how well, dressed they are or how professional they are in their communication and how, dedicated they are in their roles when they're doing it. And everything you just said, it just is so true because when you show the best version of yourself, you leave those lasting impressions. And I think I've had so many good feedback from employers and different organizations that have hosted students over the years. They've always said those things. It's like those little things that you did in your role, it stood out to them. And it's like you showed the best version of yourself when you were there. And that kind of left that impression with them. And some of them were like, we would recruit them right now. And that's how good they were, some of them.
Wow.
They just in year 10, bear in mind.
Yeah,
and some of them were absolutely brilliant. And it just goes to show like how much of an influence they can leave behind to a particular employer. And they were really literally saying like, if they want a job when they turn 16, let us know. And I told them, the students, and they were very obviously thrilled to hear that, understandably. And then I think that's a really good attribute to have. If you can go into a place of work and leave a lasting impression, that's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge.
Exactly. I think it links back to your thing of like, what can you do to stand out? If you show the best version of yourself day in, day out, eventually you're going to leave something small that will stand out.
Without you realizing sometimes.
Exactly. Without you realizing. The way you tie your shoes or the way you stack this particular item on a shelf or the way you sign off a Word document. I don't know, something.
Yeah.
Will stand out.
Yeah. So since we're on the topic of giving advice, if you were to go back to your Rishi at 18 years old when you're finishing year 13, what would be the best piece of advice you'd give yourself for then?
The best out of all there's so many bits of advice
I know, that's why I'm giving you a hard one because I know there's so many things you can say here.
Super hard one. The best piece of advice.
Make it personal because it'll be actionable for yourself, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. I genuinely think the best piece of advice I'd give myself is don't be so scared. I think when I was 18 and I was going into uni and I was trying to figure out investment banking, I was so intimidated by it all. Like going from school where everything is so nice, all the teachers are, there to help you. Everything is there. Everything is put on a plate for you. It's just your job to go and grab it. While when you go to uni and in the world of work, like no one's putting stuff on a plate for you. You have to go out and get the stuff yourself. Well, it's so scary and so intimidating and it's so daunting. And I was so scared to just for example, I was scared to message people on LinkedIn because I was like, oh, what if I say the wrong things? What if they don't like me? I don't know how I'm supposed to frame this. And all of that. Well and truly, it doesn't really matter how you say it. It doesn't really matter. Like, even if you don't say it right, the person who reads your message can see your LinkedIn and they know you just left school. It's, you're a bit young, you're starting out. The main thing they're going to be happy about is that there's this young student who's enthusiastic. And so I think not being scared and reaching out to people on LinkedIn, joining those societies, attending networking events, speaking to people and networking events more, I think that would have been the biggest piece of advice for me.
Okay. And since you've been through the schooling life, been through your secondary and your university life, what do you think matters more, the grades, the skills, or networking?
I am going to go for fourth option you didn't put there. Be a bit cheeky and say the habits. The habits you build are by far the most important thing, because once you've left school, you've only done 18 years of your life. You have another at least 4 decades, if not more, of your career to go. If you were super dumb and got the worst grades, if you build good habits on, revising, learning, you have 4 decades to become smart, for example. If you left school without good skills in anything, you have 4 decades to learn that. If you build the right habits of, putting the best version of yourself up, working hard, you have 4 decades to make up for it.
Mm. I think I would probably even add to that as well and say the two killer combination would be the habits and consistency. I think if you combine them, you can literally thrive in any industry. You're a beast, literally.
Exactly.
No, it's so true. Brilliant. So that's been really insightful, actually, so far. Over everything you've talked about so far, how do you stay motivated with everything? Or that's going to be my kind of final question on kind of just general life advice. Like, how do you stay motivated? Because I think you mentioned at the beginning about, how you are getting involved with things like, what was it, Muay Thai, was it? Kickboxing, that was it. Kickboxing,
yeah.
And you become a little bit more spiritual as well. And what are some of the things that you kind of gets you going? Because I think it's so important in the world. We're so big and fast, and people are so many different. You have to get along with so many different people. What keeps you motivated and so difficult? Especially the role you're doing is so fast paced and so competitive, and always kind of like you mentioned about late nights and finishing, sometimes going in early, finishing late. So how do you keep yourself motivated?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's quite the existential question. How do you keep yourself motivated in these tough situations? I think the main way is finding a why for what you're doing. If you don't have a why for what you're doing, you at some point, the first burnout you get to, you're gonna stop. If you have a why for what you're doing, you'll be able to get through that burnout. So for example, like myself, when I went into investment banking, although my reasons have changed, when I first started, I wanted to go into investment banking so that I could learn how the financial system works. And then eventually I wanted to go into like central banking and try and help the British economy while I was working at the Bank of England. Although now I don't have the same motivations, my motivations are different. I still had a reason there. I know a lot of people invest in banking, their motivation is money. While it's not great, it still works. So I think having a why and having a reason why you're doing things is so important for keeping yourself in good spirits when things go wrong. And then I think the other thing is just having a good circle of people around you, having good friends, having a good family. In a more kind of technical way, it helps you optimize your downtime a bit. Having a good circle of people.
100%. No, I couldn't agree more. I think some of the things you said, your people around you can make or break you, really, and especially in the toughest times in your life, they can really uplift you in ways you won't even realize. So true.
Exactly.
I'm going to kind of ask you a few short questions, and I wanted to relate it to, again, investment banking, also your life in general, and you might link to it in some ways or not. I'm not sure, but I just thought about what I could relate, kind of make it relatable for you, kind of thing. So if I was to say deal or no deal, what would you say?
Deal. Sure.
Why deal?
I think one of the attitudes you learn in investment banking, to be fair, it can be a bit toxic sometimes. I think.
Yeah.
One of the attitudes you learn in investment banking is you say yes before you figure out how to do it, and then you figure out how to do it after. Like even if it's something that you don't think you can do, you just say yes to do it, and you just figure out how to do it after.
Yeah.
And the pressure will inevitably make you find a way to figure something out.
Exactly. And I think especially in your world, you're going to have to close a lot of deals. You're going to have to think about how to make that a better proposal when you come to putting on the table the financial modeling you do and so on, which is going to be really important to get those deals in. Okay. What about Excel versus PowerPoint?
Excel is
probably do a lot of spreadsheets and stuff, don't you?
Yeah, it's just so much easier and quicker. PowerPoint is the colors nice, the format is nice. It's important for sure, but it's quite boring. Excel's a lot more quicker, a lot more computation.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like I said, that's a good question to follow up on is Excel is very different. Not a lot of people use it in school and stuff like that. How did you, sure. You probably you had to learn probably quite fast in terms of learning how to do various formula. Did you teach it to yourself? How did you learn to get better at Excel?
Yeah. So to be honest, the whole learning Excel, learning finance is something you don't do in uni. That you do by yourself. But you have to know it, like knowing how to build a financial model, knowing the accounting is something that all of us did outside of uni, because those are the kind of things they're going to ask in the interview. And those are the kind of things you're going to need in your job. And yes, Excel is one of those. You have to learn the shortcuts. The famous trope of investment bankers don't use their mouse on Excel is fairly true. I don't think I use my mouse at all when I use Excel because it just takes up time. But yeah, you have to learn it. And also when you're on the job and you use Excel a lot, you get better at it.
Work from home or office buzz?
Office buzz, 100%. But as I said, so good for building that network. So good for building that network. And the network is so important to your career prospects. You can be super smart. You could be the smartest person on the planet. You can be the most skilled person on the planet. But if no one's willing, if you don't know anyone to show their smartness to show those skills to.
Okay. What about tea or coffee? Do you drink a lot of caffeine or like drinks?
No, I am someone who's super sensitive to caffeine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one coffee for me is enough. I remember, so when I was working those really late nights, if I had like 2 hours sleep on a night, I could have half a can of small Red Bull and it'd be enough to keep me up for the whole day afterwards.
Wow.
So one coffee for me is too much caffeine.
Fair enough. Okay, what about most overrated skill in investment banking?
Overrated skill in investment banking is your finance knowledge. I think a lot of students think, oh, you need to learn about the intricacies of finance, how options are priced and all of this and all of that. I don't think it really matters. You can always Google that, but you can't Google hard work. You can't Google resilience.
Okay, in that case then, underrated skills more people should focus on?
Attention to detail. I think it's very underrated. Attention to detail is super underrated, but it's the difference between something looking professional and reliable versus something looking like, oh, I'm taking a gamble on it.
Okay. We talked a lot about habits during this, importance of habits. You mentioned about the fourth kind of category when I mentioned about the three others. One habit that changed your life?
One habit that changed my life is just the one. Actually, yes, easy one, the hard work. Sure. Yeah, for sure. When I was, as you said, and as I said in school, when I was in school, I did put in the hard when I needed to, but a lot of the times I wasn't consistent with it. And moving to a position where I'm more consistent with my hard work, huge difference in my outcomes.
I think when it comes to your career journey or just generally journey in life, it's like a whole book. It's got so many chapters within it. But if you were to have a title for a book for Rishi Muddha today, what would that title be? Just to summarize your journey overall as a title.
Changing directions. Because I was constantly changing my motivation, my reasons why, what I'm doing.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about, okay, what's your plan for, let's say, exit plan in the long term in banking?
So yeah, this is, I'm sure you're excited to hear about this one as well, but I don't want to stay in banking for forever. It's something I want to do maybe for another few years. And then I do want to go into teaching.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something that I want to learn to work with children, help children. I think I just said changing one life is such a huge achievement in itself. And I think if I can change one child's life and put them on the right path when they were previously on the wrong path, even just one will be a life achievement for me. And so I think I'm going to work in finance for maybe like another 2 years probably. And then September 2028, I think I'd like to start teaching.
Wow.
Then maybe.
No, I was going to say, because that's a really interesting kind of trajectory for yourself. Would you do like secondary level? Would you do university level? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I have thought about that. I think I'll do secondary school level because I think, at least for me, for my experience, your personality and your habits and everything are shaped so much in secondary school. Those years of your life, from the years of like 12 to 18, are so important for shaping your personality, your habits, your mindset. And so I want to be a part of that shaping for someone. And I want to help someone. I want to help shape someone's life in a good way.
Amazing. You know, that's something that kind of links back to why I do what I do in many ways. I never thought I would enjoy teaching, I'll be honest. When I went into teaching, it was because I was doing a lot of tuitions before that during my time at A-levels and then also university time. A lot of people said, why didn't you try going into education? And at the time, I didn't see myself doing it on a larger scale. I think when initially I started, I saw the impact you can have and the fulfillment you get from seeing the young people going on to do great things. And like you said, even if you can help one person, that's what keeps me going. And I've seen a few individuals over the years who have gone on to do some great things where initially they were really struggling, and you were kind of that kind of, I don't know, the pivot for them to support them in some way or another. And it makes me really happy that you can be that person. So yeah, there is a lot of fulfillment in teaching, and you can have a big impact in a larger way. So yeah, definitely is, if you're doing it for the right reasons, it's worthwhile. But yeah, no, I can see why you would want to consider it. And but yeah, no, that's great. But would you see yourself going? I don't know why, but I always thought you'd be somebody who may consider going into politics in the future. Would that be something up for options?
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. That's definitely up for options. I mean, one of the other reasons why I want to go teaching is I feel like education is so key, not just for the livelihoods of children, but just general society. Making sure people can sift through false information, and people have the right mindsets, people understand how politics work, people understand how life works. And as I said, I feel like a lot of people's personalities and mindsets are shaped in their secondary school years.
Mm.
So I think having a good education system and a good and a robust education policy is so crucial for the success of a society and a country. And so ideally, they'll all things work out. After quite a few years of teaching, I'd like to pivot into politics and try and change the whole, rather than just one or two children's lives, change the whole education system for the better as well.
I think when you're looking at a larger scale view like that, it's incremental changes are really important, because going full on and changing a whole system is very tough and difficult, and not everyone's going to agree with you. But I can see the vision and the importance you can have on a wider scale. And a lot of the times, as a teacher, I can kind of relate to some of the things you've said about the importance of having somebody who's been in teaching to go into politics, because when you have these politicians telling you things to do in school, they have not set a foot in the school ever in their life since they left education. They have no idea what they're talking about. And it makes a lot of people angry. And I think when you have somebody who's been through the teaching world and they've seen it all firsthand, and then go on to make policies and for a better sort of reason, you can understand why they're doing it. And I think that's why I can see why your kind of career journey could span into that. And I wish you all the best with that, because I think that's a great vision to have. And yeah, and I mean, you're already doing great in your finance sort of role and what have you. So yeah, definitely, if you do that going forward, I can see that being a really good, impactful for the better for the future, really. So yeah, all the best with that.
Like, I think it's super key to have experienced people work in politics. I think a lot of people are fed up with these career politicians who spend their whole life just in politics, only spend their life in the real world, and then think they can lecture other people on things they have zero experience on. So I think it's really, really key, not just for that, but also you do actually you learn the intricacies of the education system working in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm sure I'll be able to come up with some new novel ideas that people haven't thought of before. And to be fair, I think the job of a politician is more about communicating policy and implementing policy rather than coming up with policy. And I think those are super important. I think the job of a teacher is so much about communication. It's so much about how can you tell these kids what's right for them? How can you just teaching them the subject. How can you tell these kids this information in a way that they don't hate you, in a way that they will keep it forever, and in a way that keeps them engaged in the classroom? And I think those skills are hugely transferable into politics as well.
Yeah.
Being able to communicate to the public why you've made this policy choice. Yes, it might not be great for everyone, but why overall it's good. Keeping the public engaged. I think those things can really, really help as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all I'm going to say to this is, well, Rishi Sunak, you better watch out, because there's a new Rishi coming your way.
There's a new Rishi there. Everyone's going to forget about Rishi Sunak by the time I'm there.
Absolutely. Any closing remarks for yourself, like to close up on this? Because we're actually coming up to the hour and a half mark, and I don't usually get up to this point because I feel like it's quite long for a lot of people to stay engaged.
Yeah, no,
but I've so thoroughly enjoyed this, and you've been so insightful in so many ways. So I've really carried it on for that reason. But any closing kind of remarks you'd like to kind of finish up on?
Yes, I think I would say to all the students of school watching out there, once you leave school, and if you're in university, things might be scary. Things can seem tough. Also, when you first get your first job, be rest assured that as long as you carry on working hard, as long as you do things properly and put the best version of yourself out there, things will always work out. Things will always be fine. Things can seem overwhelming and daunting, but have faith in yourself. And there's always people like Mr. Abda himself, who will always be willing to help out. I'll always will also be willing to help out if you reach out to me. Best of luck to everyone who's fighting for their chance in life.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rishi. That's really nice of you to summarize it like that. And I think I agree with Rishi. Like, if you guys are genuinely stuck in life and you need a lot of help in deciding what you want to do, it could be anything in what career path you want to go into. I'll do my best to signpost you to the right places. So just get in touch. You can, I actually do, I'm going to promote this a bit more by Instagram as well and TikTok, but haven't been so active on it. But yeah, you can post it through the message on this video if you like, or you can just email directly pathways-to-success-with-ali@gmail.com. And I'll be more than happy to come back to you guys as well. I'll share all the details for where we can find both of our details in the description of the video. So, do reach out to us if you do need any help anytime. And thank you. So that brings us to the end of today's episode to Pathways to Success. I just want to say Rishi's journey is a powerful reminder that your starting point doesn't define your destination. Whether you're studying biology, chemistry, maths and thinking of going into medicine, it just goes to show you could pivot and do a completely different career. And I'm hoping a lot of people can learn from Rishi's journey today. And if you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with somebody who might be figuring out their next steps, and it might be exactly what they need to hear. So Rishi, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And as always, for those of you guys that are listening, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Follow our works on social media. I'll share all the details in the description. And just remember, your pathways to success is yours to create. So be you, be the best version of yourselves. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.